So I love this idea of our thoughts having such a powerful influence over our lives. And I want to start with like sharing a little bit of analogy. So when I was younger, I loved candy, as most. Halloween was one of my favorite times because you'd get loads of candy, and I would during school, I'd just be thinking of like all that candy I had back home. That after I got done with school, I could go home and just eat all that candy. And as I learned more about nutrition and the negative effects to look for in myself when I eat foods that aren't, recognized more the negative effects that eating a lot of sugar and fatty foods has on my body. And pretty much agree, that the food that we eat influences how we feel, and in the long term, our health and overall functionality of our bodies. We don't often think about how important what we feed our minds is. So we know it's important to feed our bodies with healthy food, but what about our minds? What are we feeding our minds? And do we even have control over what's coming into our minds? Because I know often it just feels like, we don't really have control. Things happen to us, and thoughts come in, and they just kind of run and go crazy. But we do have control, and the more we can control our thoughts, the more we can control how our days go, how we experience each day, and overall in the long term, how we experience life and the things in our lives. So when I say that we can control what we feed our mind, and that, focusing on that all we need to do is think positively, because improving our health more than just doing one thing, just like you can't just start eating more vegetables and improve your health, especially if you have more serious health problems going on. Exercise, change the diet. There's a lot of things, and the same thing applies for our thoughts, the conditions of our thoughts and the patterns that we have there. There's, depending on our situation, there may be more that we need to do to change those thoughts and really take control of them, and to be able to improve the quality of our days and overall the quality of our lives. But this is a great place to start. Just like eating more vegetables and exercising more, a great place to start with improving our health. So we do have control over our thoughts. That's the first thing that we need to believe, because think about it. First, the people that we associate with every day, the conversations that we have with others, that is something that we do have control over and influence the things that we think about and the things that we believe. And then the things that we read or listen to, podcasts, audiobooks, social media, the news, all of those things as well, we have control over and effect over our thoughts. So I always talk about being more intentional in our living, and this is a great place to start being more intentional. So how can we be more intentional about the things that we're thinking and what we're feeding our mind? So I'm going to give you two suggestions, two tips that I use to help me to feed my mind with more empowering thoughts and beliefs and information. So the first one, if you're experiencing a lot of negative thought patterns and beliefs that are just causing you day after terrible day, and you don't have motivation to do the things that you love to do, and you're recognizing this pattern, the first thing I want you to do is to take time, take a piece of paper, and write down all the thoughts that you're having. And maybe you do this throughout the day. As you recognize a thought that comes into your mind, write it down. And make sure you get all those reoccurring thoughts, the ones that repeat often in your mind. Then after you have this list of all thoughts that you think often, then I want you on the other side of the paper to write down an alternative to those thoughts. What do you want to think instead? Because, our minds are like a garden. Flowers, if we want flowers to grow. And if we don't cultivate the flowers, weeds are going to grow. So we have to take that time to cultivate flowers. What do we want to think? What are the thoughts that we want to be going through our head that we want to have? What do we want to focus on? What are the meanings we want to give to the experiences that we're having? A big one too is like, what is the gratitude that we want to be feeling and expressing throughout the day? And once again, this isn't just thinking positively, although, we all could use to think a little bit more positively. But this is not just about thinking more positively. It's about changing the way we think about things. So a lot of us don't really like the rain. It feels dreary and cold and wet. The plants feel about rain. They love the rain, and because it gives them life, it helps them grow. So just as there's something positive about rain and something positive about sun, we need to look at the experiences in our lives and choose to find. But sometimes it is about really analyzing how we're thinking about something and being able to look at it in a different way, to choose a different belief, to choose a different meaning. So that was the first one, to take control of those thoughts coming in, of your subconscious. And then the second thought or tip is to, if you really feel like, okay, I can't take control of my thoughts right now, like there's just too much crap happening, and when I sit down and write down what I'm thinking, I just can't come up with anything to counteract it and any positive thoughts, then this is the second suggestion, is to find people or books, podcasts, or music that have the types of thoughts and beliefs and focus that you want to have in your life. And then listen to those, surround yourself with those things. We gotta feed our minds as often as we feed our bodies. And the things that we listen to, the conversations we have with people around us, books we read, the content we're listening to and reading on social media, YouTube, the internet, podcasts we're listening to, all of those things are feeding our mind one way or another. And so really take a look at all of these sources in your life that I want to think and believe. And do these sources provide those thoughts and information and beliefs that I want to have in my life? And if they don't, take them out, just like you would throw out any bad food or unhealthy food. When you want to change your diet, you gotta throw out those negative influences and bring in the positive, and listen to them every day. And that's been, at least for me, a great source. Whenever I'm getting really stuck in the negative thought patterns, I just pull up an audiobook or a podcast that has those messages that I want to feed my mind with. And it's amazing how it switches my thought patterns and helps me to get track so that I can be the day that I want, that's empowering and allows me to be the best version of me and to help and serve others. I hope that you can implement these 2 tips. And if you want to learn about, other tips and strategies for being able to take control of your thoughts and break through some of these negative thought patterns, click in the written description of this video to check out my website. But I appreciate you taking time to listen, and remember, live each day with intention.